Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner. We're here with another episode of VSW Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. I was lucky enough to witness him wrestle over the weekend at Focus Pro. Great death match, in my opinion. The one and only JB Anderson. Welcome to the VSW.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Like I said, I got to take a glimpse at what you do at the last Focus Pro, Mo Money, Mo Problems 2 that took place on Saturday night. I was impressed. My wife was impressed, which she's not into that kind of stuff, but I think she has a new appreciation for deathmatch wrestling.
That's awesome. That's kind of my goal with deathmatch wrestling. I really want to get people to understand it's not just all hack and slash. There's a little bit of science to it. I'm learning from good people, and I'm
Like
trying
a
to
good
help.
horror film, right? You could either have like a cheesy slasher film, or you could have like something good and things mean something.
Right, 100%. If you go back and watch it, everything escalated. Things got more and more violent as it went on. I always like my death matches to have a little bit of humor to them, and then as soon as the humor's done, it's time to start getting full blown Saw 3.
Yeah, it had that good blend, in my opinion, of like you said, storytelling, deathmatch wrestling, and then just the go of the fighting. Um, and I think if you kind of slack on one, if you just go out there and just stab each other, it's not gonna look good. If you go out there and like you said, it's not really a story behind it, but you guys did something very nice and it flowed. Um, so I mean, that was the first time I got to see you wrestle, but I guess I take it that's not the first time that you have wrestled.
No,
Um,
that was I've only been doing death matches actually for only a year now at this point.
really?
Yeah. I was it my first death match was last November in 2023. It was against Match Tremont.
Cool.
Then I know for a first one right out the gate, that's the pinnacle.
Yep.
So he was my first one. Then I fought Remington Roar, then Low Life Louie, and then after those three, I've just been kind of going and going ever since.
Nice. So prior to that, you were just doing the whole, well, I guess regular wrestling. What do you even call it?
Yeah, I like calling it traditional, I guess, traditional pro wrestling. But I've always had a very brawler kind of Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, Terry Gordy kind of style to how I wrestled anyway. So it's just for me, natural progression to go from yeah, all my matches are essentially a bar fight to now being all right, now I'm doing death matches. So it was inevitably where I was gonna end up.
Yeah, now you get to use the bottles in the bar fight. It's still,
Yeah, hell yeah.
um, but I have to say though, like I said, I've talked to a few deathmatch wrestlers, um, and I guess I don't know. I'm just always curious what makes somebody want to do it? Because obviously, I mean, this traditional wrestling is, it's not, it's the same. I mean, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna feel things. You're feeling
Hmm.
jumps. You're feeling bumps. All that, and that. But when you get into the deathmatch wrestling, now you're getting into added stuff. It's a little bit more harder than like ECW was back in the day. They
Right.
stepped it up a notch. I feel since like GCW and the glass and all of that.
Hmm.
Back in the day, it was mostly barbed wire and a couple of chairs and other weapons. Now it's you got the glass, you got the harder weapons, knives, little shanks.
Hmm.
If you can stick somebody with it, we'll find a way. There's Legos. Legos look deadly to me. That's the scariest one of them all. Anything else but the Legos. I've had the Legos. I've stepped on Legos. My kids knocked me onto Legos. Legos are bad, but
Legos are pretty rough. Yeah, the dice also don't feel too great.
oh, I bet. I bet nothing feels great. Let's be honest. But um, what kind of makes you say like, okay, that's awesome. Let's do it again.
um, I don't, man, I don't know. It's weird. I've always enjoyed deathmatch wrestling and hardcore wrestling. When I watched ECW for the first time, I was like, that's what I like. That's my thing. Um, But I don't know. I like the there's more freedom in what you get to do in like a hardcore or a death match, and I don't know. I like making things, so the whole arts and crafts aspect of it, the violent arts and crafts, and just being able to like think outside the box and be a little bit more creative is like what's always drawn me to it. Um, and plus, the pictures covered in blood look cool as shit.
No, yeah, definitely. It really does, and it is. It's kind of it becomes an art form, I think.
Hmm.
Deathmatch wrestling because you're blending something that's already supposed to be violent with an extra sense of violence, but then you got to
Hmm.
make it gory, but you can't make it like it's got to be in the realm that no one's actually really gonna die, and then
Right.
you got to be safe about it. And even on the safest circumstances, horror, you see and have heard and would probably witness even horror stories,
Oh yeah.
and by even some of the best, like Nick Gage and things like that, is things happen by accident,
Yeah,
and
I've been ringside for some really horrific accidents, and they're out there. Um, but I've seen regular wrestling matches where guys have nearly broken their neck on a sunset flip. So it's like every aspect of it is dangerous. Everything has like a bit of risk to it. But that's kind of the thrill of the whole thing is like the amount of risk, calculated risk.
now when you started traditionally wrestling, where'd you start training at, and
I
when was
started
that?
I started training in 2020. Like I'm a pandemic era wrestler. So
Yeah.
I was like bored as shit at home and I was like I got to do something. So I found there was a place in Maryland where I went to go train originally. Trained there for about 2 years, and then kind of bounced around to some other places. Just I wanted to like learn more. I wanted to see like what other people did, um, and trained in Delaware for a little bit, and then I've just been up ever since I met Matt, and I've just been up there with him in New Jersey ever since.
No, yeah, that and again, that's like if you're gonna learn deathmatch wrestling, that's the pinnacle. That's the mecca, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been up there a few times. Um, I went to the speaking of pandemic era, like right after the pandemic. I got into indie wrestling a little bit later. I got into indie wrestling around 2017, 18. I started checking out shows, and
Hmm.
then I started getting deeper into the indie scene. 19 and early 20. Learning things like Beyond and GCW and all these other places.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic shut us down. So I was like,
Right.
ugh. So I watched a lot of stuff that luckily we were graced with the pandemic of having tape shows and all this stuff going on. So
Hmm.
it kept us occupied. When I kind of started podcasting, started all that.
Hmm.
But then I was like, I went buck wild when 21 hit because I was just like, I want to see it all. So I drove out once to the IWTV 100. I went out to Camp Leapfrog. I went out to a few places out at the H2O. I went to VXS out a little bit further up, and
Nice.
I did a couple of other places in Jersey. But the H2O Center was awesome, and I always like to watch a lot of their they do shows a lot on IWTV,
Hmm.
and I always try to catch those if I can. A lot of wrestling during the week it's on, but I try to catch those because I mean I am a fan of that style. I know it's not really for everybody, but I feel like like a movie. Like sometimes I'm in the feeling for a certain type of movie, or sometimes I'm in this style of listening to a certain type of music. Out the same with wrestling. Sometimes I'm fine with watching something a little bit more comedic. I want to watch something that will be like light. Other
Oh, of
times I want to
course.
watch
Yeah.
people just go to war. Like you guys went to war. There was nothing nice about it. You were stabbing each other.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember there was one person who yelled something like, "What did she do to you?" And and
I
I was,
heard that, and
yeah.
you said something about the ride, but it was
Oh
funny
yeah.
because like
Oh yeah. I said she bullied me the whole way up here.
you
I try to
know,
talk a lot
um,
of shit when I wrestle.
but that makes it even more story. Then
Mhm.
people were wondering. Well, I had people. My wife asked me, "Well, were they married? Did they come like as a couple?"
Yeah. No. 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 We got our own significant others at home.
I was gonna be like, I think she was hinting maybe she wanted to match wrestle me after that. I was like, oh.
It's a
No,
good
we
way
can't.
to it's a good way to get your aggression out.
You're gonna settle the differences. Just what's better than some thumbtacks and stuff. But yeah, no, it was a great match. In my
Thank you.
opinion, again, seeing it there, I hadn't gotten to see you live at any of the other events.
Well, that was actually my first time wrestling in Massachusetts. I've never wrestled up there before. So that
Well,
was
that's
like
awesome.
a debut for me in the state and a debut at Focus Pro. So that was like two firsts for me. It was pretty
Nice,
cool.
nice. And Matt was on that show too. He got to face Brian Bayside, the master of belly rubs, who
Oh
didn't
yeah,
fare too well, but had a
that
good dance off.
that
Good
match
dance
was
off.
awesome. Like
Getting to see Matt
yeah,
Tremont dance is worth the price of admission alone, honestly.
yeah, man, dude knows how to boogie down. Like no joke, dude's got rhythm.
No, and not for nothing, he's probably one of the nicest people in pro wrestling. Like I was like, I shook his hand, talked to him. He was just like one of the coolest, just realest people. It's like, hi.
Oh, dude, 100%. Like I like my first year and a half in wrestling was like really discouraging, and I was around like a lot of like kind of bad people. When I met Matt, it like honestly probably kept me in the business because knowing I was like, oh, there are like cool, nice people out here who run cool companies. Like it's just the pocket I'm in that's bad.
Yeah,
It's not the industry
unfortunately.
as a whole.
But yeah, unfortunately. But I mean, I see it more relevant in wrestling just because I'm probably more around wrestling. But
Mm.
I remember prior when I used to do a lot of stuff in retail, it was the same way. Kind of like
Oh yeah, it's your
certain,
environment. Yeah.
even parts of certain like departments would be horrific, and then you could just move to another part of the store, and it'd be like night and day of how your experience at work would be.
Oh, of course. Like if you were the overnight stalker, everything's chill. You work during the day on cashier, it's awful.
Yeah,
I've been there. I've been there.
yeah, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like same kind of thing. So you kind of not want to lump it in and be like, yeah, the whole industry is a bunch of bullshit. But sometimes you do run into that. You'll run into a lot of things,
Right.
and where there's no kind of commissioning body or anything, people can just open shows if they have the right, asset and right means to do
Mhm.
so. But for everything and all, I have to say I'm pretty proud of New England as a whole for what we have for wrestling. I think it's some of the best in the world.
Yeah,
From
no.
like
Yeah, you guys do have a really
Pennsylvania
good scene.
probably right to Maine. Like it's just like bam.
Yeah, from like the whole like northern east coast I think is like a good hotbed for pro wrestling. Like even down into the south cuz like further south I've gone is Chattanooga and the scene down there is fucking awesome in Tennessee. And I've been up to Boston for a bunch of shows. This was just the first time I've wrestled up there. Like I've gone up for Open before. I've gone up for Beyond. Um, I'm up there with ICW sometimes doing
Yep.
crew with them. Their shows at Sanja are
I
always
love that
awesome.
show.
Yeah,
That's a great vibe and just a great scene, and it's a good time because there's no ring and it's just something different.
yeah, yeah.
And if you're into like again, if you're into deathmatch wrestling, it's a cool thing to do. Like I said, I don't recommend every wrestling fan. Oh my god, let's go to a death match because it's probably not going to be for everybody.
Well, that's what we were kind
Um,
of worried about with the Focus crowd because I mean it was their first death match ever in the company, and we were like a little concerned at first when like they announced, all right, this is the next match is going to be a death match, and there was only a few people excited, and I was like, oh man, they don't know what they're getting into, and I
I
was
didn't
like,
even honestly know that you could legally call them math a death match in mass. I thought you had to
I didn't,
change it.
yeah, I didn't know that either, because I don't know like what the like commission rules are, like
I,
legals
I
or
I was
whatever.
told that everything you can call it, but you just can't call it an actual death match. Call it like hardcore. You can call it no rules, no holds barred. Any
Oh,
of that, just can't say the word death. But maybe they've changed that. That was a couple years ago. That was back in like 21, 22.
okay.
But who knows? I think like all these changes. But I mean, I thought it got a good reception. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I
once we
think people that
started
were look,
working,
and plus
yeah.
people saw Matt Tremont being mentioned on the
Mhm.
show. The fans of Matt obviously know what match wrestling is.
Oh, of course.
So I mean, even if they were coming to see him at some point, they saw him in a death match.
Of course. That's kind of what we were like. Like once we got out there and started working, I was like, okay, cool. Like they're starting to warm up a little bit to it. and it was way more responsive than I thought it was going to be. Like I watched it back because I saw you had posted the match on
Yeah.
your YouTube, and like I can hear stuff in the moment, but sometimes I'm like so in the zone, like I don't hear everything. And then watching it back, and I was like, "Damn, they were a lot louder than I remember." Okay, I'm good. This is good. This is solid.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm like there was legitimate people into it, like, watching the spots,
Mm-hmm.
getting involved in the match, talking, asking, yelling, screaming, seeing what was gonna happen next. I think, maybe some of them or a lot of people didn't see a death match before, so to them it was just more so intriguing or shocking. I'm
Yeah.
sure some people were turned off. It's gonna happen anywhere
Oh,
you
of
go that
course.
where someone doesn't.
It's
'Cause I
like
mean, I heard like somebody
yeah.
like, "Oh, we're not gonna get her to come back to wrestling again." And I can picture that. Like you bring like, the one friend that's never been to a show, they're at a
Mm-hmm.
bar and then all of a sudden somebody, stabs somebody with a knife and it's like or like, a little pick or something. It's like, "Oh, what am I doing here?"
Well, that happened
Um,
when I wrestled for a company called ECH in Connecticut. It was like one of those hybrid no ring shows where it was like they had like hardcore and metal bands playing, and then there
yeah.
was that was like the first half of the show, and the second half of the show was all death matches. So it was me, Brax, and Leroy Robinson were like the first death match on there. Originally, they were like no glass, and we were like, that's cool. Then all of a sudden, they bring us a bunch of tubes, and we're like, all right, cool. I guess we'll use tubes. And the crowd didn't know what to do because they had never seen any of this shit before. So we start blasting tubes on each other, and everyone's like freaking out because they're seeing shit flying everywhere, but they're like super into it at the same time. It was like, it went from total fear and shock to like everyone being like, this is the coolest shit we've seen like ever, and just losing their minds.
Yeah, it kinda piques their interest even if they don't like it. They're like, "Well, wait, well, let me see where this is gonna go," because, I mean, we're still in
Yeah,
the realm of wrestling, so how far are they gonna take this?
right,
Um,
right.
and like I said, you see, all sorts of things that can take place. The staplers, I mean, that can't be fun. You were getting dollars stapled to you. That
Yeah,
can't be a good time.
it was a good tip, but other than that, no, those fuckers hurt.
It's gonna be like the kids that all, like, stuck the needles through their fingers as, like, kids, like, through the inner layers of skin that wanna do
I
deathmatch wrestling,
yeah,
right? Like,
I used to do that.
I did too. I
Yeah,
mean, in school, you'd be bored, you'd find a safety pin, we'll just sit there.
yeah.
But, no, honestly, some of it's just like, wow, though, like, that's dedication too, because whether it draws blood or not, that's not even, like, that's only, like, portions of deathmatch. A lot of it's just anticipating or feeling kind of what you felt. Like I said, the Legos for me really do it because I've stepped on a single Lego and it's, excruciating pain. Now I
Oh
see
yeah,
a bed of Legos and you're just free falling on it to me, whether you know how to land or where to land on it, I don't know. But to me, it looks like you're just free falling down on a pile of Legos. And I'm just like, with
right.
force added to it too, because I was like a slam involved. It's
Oh,
like,
of course. Well, it's
um,
like there's people who they see wrestling like traditional wrestling, and they're like, oh yeah, the mat's like padded. When they fall on it, it doesn't hurt that bad. So like you kind of can't really gauge to a normal person of
listen,
hey,
we looked at it. We looked
oh I
at
know
it. We
it's
checked it. I'll be honest. My wife wanted to see, and we was
mm,
there a little bit late. There was about maybe this much padding between the wood and the mat. There
yeah,
isn't much.
it's not a lot. It still sucks, but
It's not a
um
trampoline.
right, but to the average person, like they've never been suplexed before, so they don't know what the fuck that feels like. But in what I love about deathmatch wrestling is when you have like when you step on a Lego, you can relate because you've stepped on a Lego. You know that hurts. So if you see someone get slammed on them, you're like, all right, I know that hurts. If you step on a thumbtack, you know those hurt like crazy. You see someone come up from getting slammed into a bunch of thumbtacks, and there's like 100 of them stuck in their back. You're like, yep, okay, that's legit. I'm into this.
Yeah, it's all relatable. Everybody,
Of
been hit
course.
with a hammer before. Everybody's at least got cut. Everyone's been bled. Everyone's done something.
Yep.
Not the average person's taken a power bomb, but
No, no.
Um, but yeah, no, I can see that. Is there anything you have to do special to kind of prepare for the pain?
Um, I try to not think about it too much. Honestly, I kind of just like I look at everything. I'm like, all right. I know what's gonna hurt. I know like it's gonna suck a little bit, but I'm also like, if I think about it too much, I'm like that with anything in wrestling. Like if I think about something too much, it makes me like worried that something bad could happen. So I just like I full send every time and just dive into shit. Because if I think about it too much, then I'll freak myself out. But I typically go, all right, I got to do X, Y, and Z. I gotta go. I gotta hit X, Y, and Z. So that's all I gotta remember, and then just fucking go.
No, I didn't know if like you have to do like any special training. Like I remember, like I used to do boxing and stuff, and like
Mm.
they'd have you do like sit ups and like literally Singapore cane my stomach and shit,
Oh,
and like prepare me for jabs and like being hit and body shots.
nah. My like the first time I took barbed wire, it was like I got picked up and dropped on it. That's basically it. And it was in a match. I like it was my first time feeling what it felt like when you get punctured and cut and all that other stuff. So nah, it's just I'm very on the job training with that stuff and doing it live.
No, no, I mean, and I think the
Mhm.
scariest part about the barbed wire, I think for me, is like is when it gets stuck. When you see it stuck to the person, they get up and
Yeah.
it's still attached. It's like, okay, now this is gonna go two ways. Either they're gonna gently remove it, or there's someone's just gonna tear that shit out, and it's gonna be like, ow.
Yeah. That's happened to me a couple times with barbed wire. I don't like I would rather get punctured with barbed wire than sliced with glass. So I tend to like using barbed wire more. Um, the death match I had down at TWE 2 months ago, I got barbed wire stuck like pretty bad in me, where it got stuck in my mid back, lower back, and then in the back of my thigh. And I didn't notice it until because like I got fucking slammed into it in the fucking turnbuckle and then into a board, and then like the board broke, and I'm like, all right, cool, let me just walk out, and then I start walking away from it, and all the weight pulled, and I went back, and I was like, oh shit, it's still in me. um, and that was like, it always catches me off guard because I don't know it's in me until like I can't move,
Yeah,
and
'cause
I
I
just
mean,
assume to
mixed
start
with all the
going.
pain and everything, it's also a lot of adrenaline and everything else. So it's like you
Shitloads
keep
of
going and
adrenaline.
going and going until, like you said, wait a minute, what's caught on me here? What's going on here?
Yeah, I was about to just fucking like roll out and roll away, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, I actually can't. And you saw how I wrestle. I wrestle in booty shorts, so like I don't have a lot of coverage.
No,
But
no, no.
yeah.
But which I mean, for the you're getting cut.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah. No, there's no way around it.
What would you say your like favorite weapon to use is?
I really like. I mean, like I'm partial to barbed wire. I'll wrap barbed wire around anything, but the electric turkey carver, that electric knife joint, is probably like my favorite thing to use.
That was insane. I have never seen anybody use that. I've seen pizza cutters. I've seen obviously, people use the spikes.
Hmm.
I've never seen anybody using like a little electric saw.
Yeah, that's kind of like my go-to. If I really want to do something like really gross and shocking, that's what I lean towards.
I think, yeah. I mean, that did it. Probably. I was even shocked to see because, like I said, it's not something you would normally see in a death match. Maybe you might see something like a knife or a saw, but then I'm thinking, but then now it's like, oh, this is interesting now. That's a
Yeah,
moving blade. That's a
yeah.
little bit different.
It's the two, so it's like two serrated blades going like this. I used to use like a katana regularly, um, and like I use it for submissions. Like I'll cut someone's head with it, or I'll fucking stab them with the tip. Um, but the way I usually was using it for like a finish, I would put the katana in their mouth like long ways, and like pull for like either a camel clutch or crippler crossface or some shit. Um, but just getting that around is like hard. So I'm like, this is smaller and compact and even more nasty. So like, let me just go with that instead with a little
Yeah, no,
electric
it is.
knife.
It is. It's very nasty. Let me ask them.
Hmm.
Like, how do you even like get to the point to be able to trust your opponent to trust you, to be able to let each other cut each other like that?
It takes a lot of trust. I I usually like I haven't been in many situations yet where I've been like I don't trust this person to do that to me. Um, and like for the majority of matches I've had, everyone has been really safe with me, and I haven't had any issues with anyone. And I always check too to make sure that like I didn't overstep any boundaries, and everyone has told me the same thing. Um, but yeah, no, it takes a lot of trust. Like I've like the knife spot has been something that I think I've done it 8 times now, so it's like still pretty fresh. But no one's dead, so we're good.
No, that's good.
Yeah, no,
Nobody's actually really
no, I know.
died.
No, it's everyone is it's
But
surface
it's not like
scratches.
you
Everyone's
you get at
not
the show,
dying.
you meet your opponent. It's not like you got to like let's practice this for a couple of months. I mean, unless it's someone you know that your training buddy or somebody you know,
Yeah,
you might meet this person for the first time. It's like, okay, we're gonna bust each other open now. Here we go.
yeah. I mean, like generally, like I mean, gussets are brutal. Fucking, there's other ways. Like I've like when I fought Lady Blakely down south. We went hard way with the with her metal chain. I was like, just fucking. I think I had like maybe a couple cuts from like another match that were still healing. I was like, just fucking swing and it'll pop these open. Um, I hope. But no, she caught me with the edge of the chain, and it did hard way me a little bit. But not like we're all
you
alive, we're still
think
living.
you think there's more like risk of concussion in working death matches over traditional? Or you think it's about the same?
So yes and no. I've had a couple bad rings from traditional matches more than I have from death matches. Like Inziguris, I hate them because I've been kicked so hard in the side and the back of the head from people throwing Inziguris, where I've almost been knocked loopy. Like, I've got knocked silly from back elbows before, people just getting me like right in the right spot. So like, I mean, they're fine and I'm usually okay, but I've fucked my head up more from regular wrestling than I have with deathmatch so far.
Yeah, no, I was just always curious about that because I mean, I figure, I mean, the moves are still the same. If you're gonna get concussed from a move, whether you're doing it within death match or not, I guess it would just be the weapon shots. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot's changed, right? I mean, they're still trying not to do the the just straight to the head chair shots anymore and all that.
Yeah.
Try to have a little bit more protection than back in the day.
Yeah, and I have a
Um,
pretty I have a pretty hard dome, so like I can usually handle a little bit when it comes to, weapons and shit hitting me in the skull.
yeah, no. And yeah, of course, there's spots. I mean, you gotta remember the human is made of bones, which bones are there to also protect.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Right.
hard material there to protect. Um, but like I said, it some people that they'll be like, I could never even work a death match and even look at it. Because I think a lot of fearing kind of goes into it too of what is it going to entail and how much they're going to bleed and
Yeah,
um
my first one I bled a lot. Like a lot. And
yeah, but you were with Matt
yeah.
Tremont. What do you expect was going to
Exactly. I
happen?
was super excited. I was like, "Yo, like give me the works." Um but no, like there's friends of mine who don't do death matches at all. Like they barely do hardcore either. Who they see it and like they joke around that they want to do it one day, and I was like, "Yo, man, you should. Like if you want to do it. If you don't want to, don't do it." Like literally it's all people deciding to do this on their own. Like no one's forcing you to do the shit. But yeah, there's a lot of guys who hit me with I would never do that. And I'm like, "All right, fine." I'm not making you.
Until they try and then they get hooked and then they never want to stop doing it.
Yeah,
I've
I mean
heard that
yeah.
story too. They're like, "Oh, we did it and now I've been hooked ever since."
I've always wanted to do it. It's been what I've wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to wrestle properly first before diving into it because I actually wanted to learn wrestling
Well,
before.
yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the gateway. Like, I mean, I started wanting to. I mean, I'm a '90s kid. I started getting into wanting to learn or get into wrestling around
Hmm.
early 2000s, and at that point, it was like everybody I knew and everybody had like some sort of setup in their backyard. People were fighting, doing all sorts of things.
Oh
It
yeah,
was no glass or anything like that because it was, it was ECW and everybody was watching ECW, so it was a lot of bats, barbed wire.
chair
People could
shots.
get barbed wire. I had my dad worked construction. I would remember him having me get rolls of just barbed wire just for
Hell yeah.
fun, and we would just, have some fun.
Hmm.
But, at the end of the day, nobody, really knew how to actually wrestle. It was just, okay, let's just try to do what they do on TV. I know we can't do any moves, so we're just gonna
Hmm.
do what we can do, and
Yeah.
people had fun. And some people got to go to school. At that time, I felt like I was unlucky. I'm a little short. I was very skinny. Wrestlers at that point wasn't really a thing.
At
In
that, yeah, at that stage of
2001,
the
they were
game,
still
yeah.
looking for these big, massive, muscular men. They're like, "Oh, you'd be a good ref or something like that." And I was like, "Eh, if I can't do it, forget it." I started to learn to box and I did other things. And then later
Hmm.
in life, I got back into it. I'm not, trained by means of how, but I've done seminars, trainings, day trainings. I've done some other open houses and other things. And I bumped and jumped off ropes and
Hmm.
ran ropes and learned basic stuff. But just wanted to learn appreciation of it because you watch it but again, at that time the bridge was basically just, well, you could just, if you could get enough backyard buzzing going, well, you could just, go wrestle now somewhere. And I know a lot of people that just did that. They just said, what the hell? They skipped the whole process and just went from one place and just went in and be like, well, I've been doing this for 4 years here.
Right, and it's like, well, have you been 4 years? But no, there's guys that I have worked who are yarders who are actually really good. There's some people that just pick up to it really, really well. And it's then there's the opposite that have been really rough. But like, I think that it's true with both. Like, I've wrestled guys that have said that they've trained properly and they haven't in like traditional wrestling, and it's it's such a complicated thing because there's no vetting system really, so
No.
you just gotta
I
kind
mean,
of
you can,
just
yeah, I
trust the
mean, you
person
can
you're
say,
working
okay,
with.
let's go from a school. Okay, we're gonna go for accredited school, but then it's like there's a whole bunch of people that can't afford the school that got trained. There's people that,
Right.
the old fashioned way was kind of trained as we go. You're gonna start doing little things, and every show you're gonna do something a little bit more, and you're gonna learn a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. And you might not go to class 3 days a week. You got
Oh
other
yeah.
people that do. They're dedicated 3 days a week. You got people going after WWE IDs now that are
Mm-hmm.
there probably 5 days a week.
Right.
There's so much variation in
Mm-hmm.
wrestling, and there's no one to really set the standard and say, "Hey, this guy's actually 100% trained."
Right. And that's
You
kind of
know,
why I don't like getting super hung up on it with other people, because like it's such an individualist kind of like art form where it's like some people are just really, they pick up on this really fast, really well, and they're really good at it. And then you got
It's funny though
people,
because
yeah.
I only mention because like I've seen, and I know people that have done, and they're really really good at like hardcore. I don't call it death matches because they're not using the glass, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll say really hardcore matches. They're using tacks, they're using Legos, they're using all of that.
Right.
But if you had to put them in like a traditional match, they would be lost and wouldn't, look very well. But when you put them in the hardcore, then they fucking go, they go to town and do what they, really get a good pop. So it's like, okay, so you might, that might be your strong point. Maybe not so much lack of training, or maybe it is. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that a lot. I think hardcore death matches sometimes get a bad rap though because a
Yeah,
lot of people don't
100%.
see it as that traditional sense. So they're like, well, it's just a backyard thing, kind of anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you got a lot of promotions that run without the ring, and that
Yeah.
throws people off too. Which I'm a big fan of. I was a big fan of like No Peace Underground and stuff like that,
Oh,
where
that shit
they would just
ruled, dude. That shit was really fun to watch.
just to took things to another level. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I really like, what they do down in Cambridge when I can get down there is because you don't have a ring. You don't need a ring to wrestle. You can tell the story of the fight without the ring, and it actually
Mm-hmm.
looks even more realistic.
Right. Yeah. It looks like an actual fight breaking out.
I remember my first show that I watched. It was this was actually one of the first shows that I ordered on. Um, pay-per-view, I will call it. It was on Fight Network at the time. Now is I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's Triller, but it was out in Vegas. Maybe it was SWF. I think it was Chris Bay versus Matt Cross, and there was no ring.
Oh,
And
that sounds like a good matchup.
it was in a club somewhere, and I was just mesmerized by it. It was like
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where, like, if you signed up for Fight, you got to pick one pay per view for free. So I saw this, and I was like, okay, let me check this one out. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just mesmerized. I probably watched it like 3 times because OC's on it too, and there's other people, and I was just like, wow, this because I had never seen that. When I grew up, going to an indie show meant let's go watch a bunch of bums and get those autographs from like the Honky Tonk Man and the people they were bringing in from WWE
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
didn't know any of the locals and nobody was running regularly. So it was like there was nowhere to follow unless it was a back of a magazine. But
Right.
but if you saw the WWE guys, we knew them
Mm-hmm.
as a kid. So
Well,
it
that's what's
was
so
weird. And
cool
then
about
I got
the.
out of wrestling for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time. I just was doing life and doing other things. But meanwhile, the scene was growing and thriving and booming. And when I got into it at first, I was like, that was the other mesmerizing thing for me. People had character.
Oh yeah.
They weren't there just to lose.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the cooler things about the industry right now, because like I wasn't I'm kind of in the lucky part of the American wrestling scene right now, where it's like there's so much access and there's so much output and just ways to get your name out there and ways for people to see you wrestle, where it's totally different than if like if I started in the early 2000s, like I would probably be old, mad, and grumpy if I saw how easy it was for people to just see your work. Like, we have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Those are like big platforms for everyone to see you. You got Triller, you got Title Match, you got IWTV, you got YouTube, you got all these ways to just get your show out there if you're a promotion and get yourself out there if you're an individual.
And
It's
then you got
like,
the bonus
yeah,
of the fans, because then like
and they'll share your stuff too. Yeah.
they share your stuff, and then, like no, but I mean, some of the wrestlers I've noticed, they I end up with a higher following, whatever. So like, I
Mm-hmm.
love to share their stuff because that means more eyes and ears on the scene.
Yeah, and everyone
Um,
understands that. It's a very like understood give and take, where like I love like the collaboration aspect now of Instagram, where like if you make a post you can collab with that person's
yep.
page, and then it grows both of your pages to different audiences that normally wouldn't be around each other. It's like, I don't know. I came from like a DIY music scene, and I used to be like a concert promoter. So seeing how like all of this stuff kind of carries over and just where we're at with like individual promotion is like a really cool thing, that it can still be done in such an like organic way.
Well, entertainment's entertainment. I think when you break it down in some
Oh yeah.
aspects. But yeah, it can be done. And just in the way, like I said, the collaborations now, even today, like between inter promotions, that
Mhm.
never existed. People used to just run against each other and not like each other. Now you
Yeah.
see people crossing titles, which brings a fan base, from another state maybe to this state or this state to
Mhm.
another state. People start traveling because I don't
Yeah.
know if a lot of people realize, but people aren't just fans of the promotion. There's people that will travel, states to watch another guy wrestle because they don't get to see them often or they like them, or when they come in, that's the only time they see them. Like, for instance, a lot of people I know really like when Stan comes, like Focus, because they
Mhm.
don't get to go to Jersey to watch Stan Styles fight. He only wrestles very, not too frequently in Mass.
Yeah. And he's great.
So,
I love Stan.
and I've loved Stan for,
Yeah.
years since, his early IGB days. And,
Mhm.
when he, like that first one he ran, I was just like, this guy's doing something different. Let's go. Here we
Yeah.
go.
He still has one of my favorite matches ever with him and Effie. It's up there as like literally one of my favorite matches I've seen in person. I think it was one of the Marcus Mathers shows. I think that was at the H2O building. But it's, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It is a fucking great match.
No, definitely. I actually haven't seen a non-good Stan Styles match. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that I kind of met during the pandemic. I actually met him in a weird way. I was when the pandemic hit, I started doing this little thing where I was like, I seen a lot of people kind of I wouldn't say mopey, but I could tell they were like sad and depressed. Not just because of what was going on, but the weekends were coming and going, coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
There's no wrestling. There's also no extra income. Things aren't happening. So I started a little thing where it was like, if you have an pro wrestling tees page, drop your link in. I'll pick a shirt at random.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing like once a week. Then it became like daily. Now I got like a whole closet full of indie shirts, like ridiculous
Nice.
amounts. But
Yeah.
I ended up with Stan was like my third or fourth winner. And I ended up getting one of his shirts and checking it out. And then whoever shirt I bought, if I didn't know them or hadn't seen them, then I started to go back and watch them,
Okay.
which was kind of the cool thing too. And I just became a friends or friendly with a lot of these guys and girls that were just killing it at the time. And I think that's what I love about indie wrestling the most is not even just I love a bunch of stuff about it, but what I really love is watching people's arc. Like, you'll see people come in, they'll come in green, they'll come in, they just got out of training, they're working shows, and then you'll just see them reach this pinnacle top where they'll get to the next level. They'll
Yeah.
go on national TV, and it's just like, damn, that's great to see because you don't always get to see that. Yes, you can in major sports if you happen to follow the person from like college on or high school on, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen very much. In indie wrestling, you can watch that. You can see that if you go to shows enough and watch these people that are dedicated every month, coming in and out and working shows all over New England and in different areas and going across the state, going across the country, going to other countries. Then all of a sudden, you see them in AEW, you see them in WWE, you see them in New Japan, you see them all over the place.
Oh yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, like it's the stuff moves really fast too cuz like I've had people that like I started training with at one point, little bit of time goes down the road, you start seeing them get these cool opportunities like, I trained with someone who's now on the WWEID program. And like just seeing their drive and movement and dedication get them to where they want to be is just awesome. Like I'm a little old in the game as far as like just life. Like I'm pushing 40, so like I'm not. I never get envious of other people. The best way to put it. Like
Well,
I'm
no,
I'm
because
I'm
I
a
mean,
yeah.
I think at some point in every wrestler's career, wherever you are right
Mhm.
now, you know what you're in there for. A,
Yeah.
you know what your limit is. B, and you know where you kind of want to go. Now, like if you
Yeah.
was really pushing for WWE, yeah, no one's saying you can't. The
Exactly.
reality of it is, you might probably not make it, is because they're
Hmm.
looking at these younger people that are going to give them 20, 30, 40 years out of their life.
Right. And I could probably give him 20 on a good year,
Yeah.
but like no, like I'm what I was getting to is like I'm always like a big like, root for the team kind of guy. Like if there's someone I fuck with or someone I'm a good, friend with, like I just love seeing people succeed in their crafts no matter what it is. So I've always been like, I'm everyone's cheerleader essentially. Like if they get up and they get in this good spot, like I'm all about it. I'm all for them. I just want to see
You know?
people like
Oh,
enjoy
and
their career.
it's great. And I mean, let's talk about. I mean, like again, the art. Like Marcus Mathers, he got his WWE
Oh
ID.
yeah,
He's a
amazing.
he's a kid that I saw. At the IWTV 100, he won like the scramble and got the briefcase.
Hmm.
And people were just looking at him like this kid's going somewhere, but
Yeah,
you didn't know where he was gonna go. And from that point on, he just succeeded and excelled and grew fans and grew crowds and just got over. And pretty soon he's coming up for one of the biggest fights against Cruel. On top
right.
of having his ID, you got other people like Ricky Smokes who came out of New England Pro Wrestling Academy. One of the hottest stars out there. Always puts on good stuff. Aaron Rourke's another one. Out of
Yeah.
Cap, amazing things going on with it. You got all these people coming out that I've seen, in the pandemic that were just kind of starting, getting their
Hmm.
their groove.
Yeah.
One of my favorite examples, I don't know if you know her, is Becca. She's
Oh
someone that
no, yeah.
started
I've been on a couple shows with Becca. She's
she
awesome.
started in like 2020 when I first saw her pre-pandemic. She was basic Becca, and now she's nothing but extraordinaire. She's like she's taken her career to the whole nother level, and then like 5 levels later.
Hmm.
And she's done it in a very, very short time. If you think about it, 4 years, 5 years isn't long.
Oh yeah. Same with Zeta Steel. Like me and her started around the same time,
Yeah.
and like seeing her get to the point she's at is like cool as shit.
So it's like, yeah, I know, like you're also in, like you said, you're in a like almost Renaissance boom era. So it's like, yeah, you might not get that ID, but you might get an AEW match. You might get
Oh yeah,
this. You might get an MLW match. It's like it's not out of the possibility. It's just I get what you're saying though. It's like if you was 20 or 22, you'd be pushing harder for that, or that would be on the goal. That would be the forefront. Like,
right.
oh, I need that,
Well,
or that's what I want.
my mindset has always been like I got to sit in on like a really cool Q&A with Matt Cardona when like I first started training. I'm like 3 months in and Cardona came in to do something at the promotion I was training at, and he did his always ready speech about like, you can't, like, you can't make, if you can't make something happen, you can be ready when it does. So that's kind of always been my mindset of like, you know, I'm going to push myself. Like if I get an opportunity to do something with like a national company or anything like that, I'm ready to do it. Am I going to lose sleep over not doing it? Absolutely not. Um, I'm just honestly, I'm enjoying the ride I'm on, and for being in like January is like my 3 year WrestleVersary. Like I'm not even at 3 years yet, and I've had like probably one of the coolest fucking years in my life in this last year alone. So like I'm
Yeah, I
just
mean, it sounds
excited to
like
see where it
you've
goes.
you've rejuvenated yourself. You found kind of what you really like to do in the wrestling scene.
Yeah,
And with that, the sky's kind of the limit. I mean, the death match scene is booming. There's a lot of people out there.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
there anybody in particular you're looking at working? You want to fight with, scrap with?
Oh my god, my list. One of the main ones is like, I've I've wanted to work Redacted for a while. Like me and him were actually like friends before I was a wrestler.
Yeah,
Just knew each other from the music scene and shit. Always been a cool
very nice,
dude.
dude.
Like yeah, we've talked about working before. It's just one of those things where it's like right place, right time. So he's on the list. Me and Hardcore have tried getting stuff together. We had a show booked and it got canceled. Then we had another one booked and he broke his arm. So I'm like, fuck, the universe doesn't want this to happen. um, but yeah, like those guys, like, and then of course, like the bigger names that I would love to work is like I'd love to wrestle Hoodfoot or Mickey Knuckles, Masada, Joe Dredd. There's a lot of people that I would love to work with. I'd love to wrestle Remington Roar again, Matt and Louis. Like trying to think who else. Like like my pinnacle would be to work Gage before he hangs it up, but that's I don't see that happening. But it would be really fucking cool if it did. Um, yeah, no,
Yeah,
there's
he's
there's
amazing. I
yeah
have to say,
any
he's one of those people that he just does it good.
Yeah, I'd really like to work like Otis or Atticus, like the Koger brothers, any of the guys in 440, like they all crush it. Like Atticus is
Yeah,
probably one
Atticus
of
is
my
another
favorite
one I've
deathmatch
got to
wrestlers to
really
watch.
witness coming. I remember him working like earlier Beyond shows, and now the kids, doing really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's that arc you get to kind of watch. That being a fan, you get to kind of watch these people grow, and they learn things, and they're like, oh, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna incorporate this next time. They keep it going, they get better at it.
Yeah, he's just
Um,
legit one of the I think currently one of the best deathmatch guys right now. Just promos are always amazing. Uh, Matches are always really well thought out. Like just top to bottom, I feel like I would learn like a shit ton working with him.
yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, you mentioned Redacted. I had him earlier on this year in the show. Great guy.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one I got to see out in Jersey at VXS when he was
Oh
with
yeah.
when he was running as Doctor Cube.
Yep.
It's another good promotion that I enjoyed. I guess they came back under a new name. I might want to check it out if they go back out
Oh
there.
yeah, it's a rival, I think, or something like that.
Arrival, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That was a fun one though. They had some good matches on that, and
they did.
had a good kind of vibe, different. And that's what I kind of look for in pro wrestling now. Something that's different, something that's not the norm vibe of pro wrestling. Because if
Right.
you go to enough shows, you're gonna see the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what attracted me to H2O so much when like I started going there is like it had such a like do it yourself kind of like ECW sort of vibe to it. Like I just walked in the building and kind of had like that feeling of like, yep, this is where I want to be. Then I stayed for the show and I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely where I want to be. So like I am tried and true H2O all the fucking way.
I do it.
Yeah.
My only gripe with them is it gets really, really hot in there in the summer, really hot. And
Imagine
they close.
wrestling, bro. No,
But
I
during
know.
that show, I remember we went in there. Like I said, it was a doubleheader show.
Yeah.
First show, was the Can't Believe Frog. Then right
Hmm.
after IWTV, it was about inside had to be at least 120. People were
Yeah.
drinking water, and then you got Wheeler Yuta and Danny Garcia coming out doing 1 hour,
Yeah, that
and these
is
two
insane.
and these two are just about to die in there because the fans are dying in there. It's hot. The doors are
Yeah.
closed. It was rough, but it had a vibe. It was a good vibe. It was a fun time. Nobody
Hmm.
left. Everybody had a good time. It was like,
Oh, of
this is
course.
awesome. We're not leaving this.
Yeah, I was.
And the heat just added to the match drama. It's like, okay, well, are they gonna be able to do this?
Yeah, being like amongst the elements is another like just you like you're right. It's another added story element to it. It's like it's a it can get kind of bad in there with the temperature being nature of the elements, but it's I don't know. It has there's magic in that building. I don't know how to put it,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's yeah
you can feel the history, you can feel the magic, you
yeah
can feel it. It's like walking into the ECW arena. You can feel that history and that
yeah you
magic,
can
and even in the ballroom when you go in there, you can feel something special in there too. And just different places that have had magical moments in wrestling. If you
yeah.
know what you're looking for, you can feel that, and H2O definitely has that.
Hmm.
And I do recommend people that have never been out there to at least go out once. Yes, coming from Mass, it's not the best drive. Yes, the tolls suck. Yes, you'll
Yeah,
pay a little bit.
but it's
Um,
it's worth the drive for the good shows. Like everyone that came down for like I think we had like one of our best houses in a while down there for Concrete Hell, and like dude, Schlack and Matt killed it. That was like
I love Slack.
a hell of a spectacle. Yeah.
I got robbed on Slack. I'll be honest. I'm gonna gripe for a second. I went
Oh.
to that XPW return show.
Hmm.
Okay, and it was in New York, and I don't know what Rob Black was thinking running the death match, a death match show or whatever he was running in New York, because everybody knows you can't really bleed in New York.
Right.
And they got
Yeah.
Schlack coming out, and right like the second, like maybe a minute into it, somebody throws a chair at Schlack. Schlack bleeds.
Hmm.
Commissioner comes in. The whole match is stopped. It's over.
Yep.
And the fans don't know what's going on because they don't realize that
It's a
New
commission
York
thing.
don't
Yeah.
have these rules. It's like, uh, I'm just like, damn, we missed a good match. I would have loved to see Schlack fight.
Yeah. Schlack's on my list too. I would love to work with him. Um, because he's just like I don't know, he's just like such an intense motherfucker when he wrestles. Like it's such a like it's
Yeah, he
something
has
I'd
his
run
own
from
vibe
that
within
match.
his own vibe. It's like it's nuts. And but he's another nice guy though. Like
Oh
off,
yeah,
he's very cool dude. But then like in the ring, yeah, you don't want to be standing across him. He's gonna kill you.
it's that aura thing. Like he's got the aura. Like when you see him in the ring, you're like, yeah, shit's about to get nuts.
Were you nervous your first match with Matt, or were you more excited?
um, I was nervous when he told me we were doing it, and then because at first I was like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? That was like my first thought. But then as it led up to it, and like you know, I cut a promo for it. I saw the reaction that people were having to it. Because it went whenever I get announced for someone that's like higher up than me, I always get worried about the whole like, oh, who the fuck is this person? Is like, as the green guy coming in. But like that kind of hasn't been happening, which has been really cool. Like the fans have been really supportive of like seeing me grow and like progress in deathmatch because they know that's where I want to be, and like
I mean, I'll be
it,
honest with
it
you. I never had heard of you, but I was already a fan just because I was like, this dude looks cool and he's doing death matches. Hell yeah.
yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. Is like I just try to be a down to earth dude and just try
I
to
mean, we
like fucking do
sponsored the
my
match
thing.
blindly I mean, when I say blindly, just because I've never seen you wrestle, I never seen
Yeah,
her wrestle. But I was like, you know what? It's their first death match. I believe in it. I believe in death match wrestling.
yeah,
Here we go. Let's do it.
and I appreciate the hell out of that because any company that is willing to open their platform to deathmatch wrestling, like and let us like just be creative and do our thing with like very little or no restrictions, like I that means the world to me, especially being able to like be a part of their first one and them trusting us to do it. Like that meant a lot, and that was really really cool.
Yeah, and like I said, I think honestly it went really, really well. I think the reception went really well. The people that didn't know what it was now know. The people that
Mm-hmm.
know were very excited, and I think they wanted to come back.
Ooh, I would love to
Um,
come back and do it again.
and I think the scene within a brewery was really cool too because it gives that kind of bar fight vibe,
Yeah.
and it's just a nice time. Let me ask you, we got just a couple minutes. What do you got coming up? Any shows coming up for you?
Yeah, so December 7th, I am in a hardcore scramble at H2O for H2O Standback. It is me, Jess Moss, Lady Blakely, Anthrax, and Cody Manhorn in a five-way scramble down in New Jersey. Then after that, um, I have a match in Waldorf, Maryland for Assault Wrestling Alliance. I'm in a triple threat cage match for their hardcore title. Um, and that is December 14th. It's their Jingle Cell show. Every match is in a steel cage, so it's like that's
Oh,
the whole
fun,
gimmick of
fun
the show.
times.
Yeah, yeah. That one's pretty cool. It's with this dude Chris Young and Elijah. Fuck, I'm blanking on his last name. Dude in a luchador mask. I think he's from Hog Wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, it's gonna be I have a plan to be very silly for that one because I have a cage to play in, so I'm gonna get to do some cool shit.
Nice.
And then match is not announced yet, but the 28th of December is H2O's year-end extravaganza, and I got a pretty cool match on that one. Just can't say nothing yet, so
Well, I'm gonna
wait.
have to look out for it though for that announcement. And people at home
Yeah,
watching and listening, gonna have to
yeah.
look out for that announcement.
Oh yeah.
And definitely maybe that's when I'll go back to Jersey again. I don't know.
It's gearing up to be a pretty gnarly show. So if you're gonna come, definitely come to the one this weekend if you're able to, um, on the 7th, and the year end is gonna be pretty sick also.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, like I said, and I think that's the cool thing. I think there's just a lot of wrestling in Jersey too. Just seems to be a lot of wrestling. I know we have a lot of wrestling in Mass. I feel like you guys get a lot of wrestling too, just happening all the time,
Yeah,
constantly.
there's a ton. But there's a lot of really quality people. The amount of wrestlers in the area, there's tons of wrestlers. So it's like it's cool that everyone has an opportunity and a place to work. Um, because you could be in a place that's really cutthroat and has one company, and you only need 30 guys. You don't need that much. So for
No,
everyone
even
being
then,
able to
some
work,
places only have like 16 to 20. 20.
yeah, yeah. And like those are the places that like always rub me the wrong way, where it's like, like everyone's vying for a spot, so like everyone's paranoid and everyone's worried, and it's like, dude, like I don't need to be in a place like that. Like chill vibes, cool people. That's all I need in wrestling,
Well,
and
that's why we
that's
had you
where
in the
I'm at.
VSW. That's what we are. Chill
I
vibes, cool
know
people.
that's why I love this shit. It's just it's cool, like
You know, we
same thing from the music scene I came from. It's all chill shit. We're all on the same level. We're all doing the same thing. Like we're all just here because this is what we all enjoy and love. So like let's make this scene better and make it bigger.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's what I say. That's why I started the podcast. All more eyes and more ears on the scene,
Hell yeah.
on indie wrestling, on deathmatch wrestling, on pro wrestling. I don't really talk a lot about WWE and AEW or any of the big companies unless I know someone that's gone there because there's a lot of eyes and ears already on them. They don't need any help.
Yeah.
They got their
And
own machines.
right.
But the
And
indie scene,
they got
sometimes,
tons. Yeah.
some of these small shows, they don't have a lot. So the more people talking about them and the more fans that can talk about them and the more shows their name can get mentioned, the more fans want to learn about them. It's great.
Yeah. And this is
And
like a
that's
really
that's
good
social media working in the right way, just getting the name out there, like the fans posting clips of you, using the turkey cutter, and different things.
yeah.
That gets
Yeah.
your name out there, it gets the show out there, it gets your opponent out there, it gets everybody out there.
Yeah, and it just keeps the train going. Like, it'll bring in like the on on Instagram specifically, every time someone posts, like if a fan posts like a clip of the turkey carver thing, that shit blows up all the time. I don't know what it is. It's
Yeah.
always like multiple thousand views, bunch of likes.
Well,
Like
I'm
it's
looking
yeah.
forward to it. I haven't posted many shorts or reels yet of your video yet, but it's gonna get cut up soon.
Oh, please
I gotta
do.
take my
I'd
time.
be excited. Yeah, yeah. Because like I think a couple people have posted like a couple photos and other clips of it, and like so far, like just the reception from those have been like building up enough intrigue. So I guess whenever the Focus Pro
Well,
show
yeah, because
drops on
you
WWE.
honestly, not for nothing, you had like two like two booms. Like one, deathmatch wrestling by itself can be a social media boom. Because I've had videos of like Slade.
Yeah.
I had a video once with like Atticus Cougar. He was facing Slade at Beyond. He took like the stakes and he put them in his head and he fanned him out. And
Yeah.
I put that to the Hellraiser theme song. I said Slade's the new Pinhead, and it went off
Nice.
until like the millions, bam.
Yeah.
And then you have intergender, which I posted Becca vs Ricky Smokes. That got almost 15 million views on YouTube. So
That's
you have
wild.
that another boom. So now if you have an intergender death match, which you did, it's like
Yeah.
bam, this is explosive dynamite on a social level.
It could be, yeah. And like that's like I'm I'm glad we did it with a way where we're just one also because like the story that I was hoping that was conveyed is that I'm being an asshole most of the match by just incorporating all this new shit and she's fighting through it and like just will not stay down, which is like
No,
to
she was that
me.
final girl, and
Oh yeah,
it
yeah.
worked.
And that's to me that's the best part of deathmatch wrestling is when like the person who's taken the most damage is the one that is like fighting through everything. And it's still the same elements of like traditional pro wrestling, right? It's the baby face overcoming the odds and garnering sympathy, but like it's just done in a very violent way. But it's still the
Like I said, no,
same
again, it
formula.
reminds me of like just like I said, like the horror. Like, you got like the lady that's been stalked all night and she's been through hell and this and that, but somehow she prevails. Somehow she beats the stalker. Somehow she defeats the killer and
Mm-hmm.
she survives the next day. It's like it's kind of the same element in that in the format of this person's been through hell. They're bloody, they're bleeding, but they're the survivor. They won,
Oh, of course.
and they get that.
And Jess is one of the
And
toughest chicks I know. So like, you
just the
know,
picture of her at the end, bloody, just with like with her
yeah.
hand raised, is awesome alone.
Oh yeah, it was a great visual. Great visual.
Yeah, but we got one more question. Where can
Mm-hmm.
people find you on social?
So I have the same handle for everything. It's Violent Breed JBA on everything: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Blue Sky, Threads. You think of it, I'm on it, and I have that name.
Great, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you coming on and talking today. And like I said, can't wait to see more of you now. Now I know who you are and where to find you and where I can see more great matches. Because I was, like I said, very impressed with the whole Focus Pro match and
Thank you
more.
so much.
But thank you for coming on, and thank you everybody at home for watching. This has been another great episode of VSW Podcast. And as always, please support indie wrestling. Versace Stoner